Jeff's going to lead us through the normal business review. And today we have a special guest from Desert Fox Logistics, Tracy Taylor. So without further ado, I'll turn this over to Jeff.
Thank you very much. And as always, we need to make sure that you know that eTruckBiz is not endorsed, sponsored, or anything else by FedEx Corporation. So before we get into everything today, we have a question for you. Have you ever encountered any difficulties running your business? Do you and your team work tirelessly to deliver great service, but find yourselves trapped in a cycle of working hard without any financial reward? This is what is called the operator trap. Many experience thin profit margins, which means working harder but not keeping more of what you earn. And a lot of folks feel overwhelmed by by the complexity, especially of 2.0. That's what we're going to talk about today, and fighting fires every day. It shouldn't have to be this hard. Should it be this hard, Ken?
No, it should not be that hard if you have the proper support network around you.
Well, speaking of that, again, we understand how stressful managing low margins and high turnover is. So you get stressed out with thin margins, and then you have employee turnover. Revolving door of drivers leads to lost productivity, poor quality, wasted time training, and it increases your costs, and it goes round and round. And what do you do? Well, eTruckBiz is uniquely positioned to help you with this problem. We have a lot of strong partnerships. A lot of you that come to these webinars once a week. It's tough to find the time to get here, but then hundreds of you watch this on YouTube. But a lot of you are, we've already partnered with you. Most of you know that we have a lot of years doing this. Our deep industry experience ensures we understand the intricacies of being a FedEx service provider. And of course, we are an approved data sharing vendor, so our data connection with FedEx provides you with services that are not necessarily available anywhere else. So that allows us to have what we call the business growth and support system, budget IQ for financial planning and tracking, performance IQ for monitoring what's going on, guidance, FRO help, all that kind of stuff, and then admin IQ that eliminates non-revenue producing tasks so you can focus on the first two. That's what you should be doing. And of course, the software, the business software that backs everything up. So a lot of folks say, how do I get involved with the business growth and support system? So what you'd want to do, and there'll be a link here later and a QR code later, but anyways, we want to start with creating a business blueprint. We want to start with analyzing your business, creating a standard budget and then an expense plan. This is a $495 value that for peak here, we're going to give that away free. A lot of people say, I don't have time, it's peak. Yes, you got to think about what's going to happen past the next couple of months here. Yes, it's going to get busy. Yes, things are going to get nuts. There's going to be something happening after the first of the year for a lot of you. A lot of you are going to be integrating into 2.0, and it's no joke. And we're going to find out about that here in a little bit when we talk to Mr. Taylor. Anyways, we want to create the blueprint, the business blueprint, implement the systems. Let's get in there and start getting some stuff done. And then guess what? Everybody that gets on these programs sees results. Some of them take a little longer than others, but it works. So there's two things you can do. You can take action and run your business like an investor, where you can get a streamlined, profitable business, get your financial freedom that you wanted in the first place, get a multi-million dollar exit strategy going, and you have a business that builds wealth. Or you can choose to do nothing, and then guess what you'll do? You'll be trapped in the complexity of the operation, right? You're going to keep working hard, work hard, and not have anything to show for it. Burn out your team, keep your stress levels real high, have some wasted potential there. So we would encourage you to take action now. Schedule an appointment today with Becca to get your budget and business blueprint. It's not necessarily a sales pitch. We really do go through and create some plans for you. It's right now it's limited availability, but we get you in. Go to eTruckBiz.com, get your blueprint. Okay, as we do every week, we look at the volume and everybody's eyes are on the volume now. So it looks like the pickup stops on the vans have rebounded back to the trend line. That's very good. That's probably what should be happening about now. But look at those packages. Those packages on those pickups are starting to get a little thicker. That's a sign. So you got up here, you got 6% up, 6% move in packages. That's a sign that peak's coming. The delivery volume was a pretty good move there too. Peak starts kind of slow, and it could be right now, might be in a week or two here, but it's coming. It kind of looks like you got a 3% move basically in the delivery volume. So that looks like it's coming. And then productivity, woof. We weren't shy putting routes on the road, up 4%. Okay, but look at that stops per dispatch. We need to be careful about
It's
letting the
Yeah, it's
inefficiencies
important
of
that
2.0 get
yes, you get people trained. At the same time, you want to make sure that we still focus on the goal and move towards a goal. These people, it's going to take 3 weeks to get them up to 100 plus stops, but you got to keep moving them in that direction, and also give some people some time off now because they're not going to be able to have any time off in 2 short weeks. So encourage some time off, utilize the newbies now, and give your veterans a little bit of a break because they're going to be working hard for about 6 straight weeks.
Okay, so there's some news, but the news right now is Network 2.0 integrations march on, no matter where we're at right now. Yes, we're right on the doorstep of peak, but it'll be over as soon as you know it. We know that there's some and this is real important, there's some very aggressive plans in place for Network 2.0 come 2026, especially 2027. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because there's a lot of folks that just need to start their integration, but it's now the meat of the whole thing is coming. So there's some issues that you'll face when you transition to 2.0. Some of you already have done it. Some of you are facing it. First thing is going to be financial pressure, increased operating costs, and new investment in resources. Yes, you're going to have to make some investments if you're going to stick around. The operational complexity, that's one of the things for sure. That's definitely getting folks. We talked about it before we got into this, but the time definites and same day on-call pickups really definitely changes your operation, no question about it. Recruiting and retention. The driver job is now more demanding, requiring a new breed of driver. I'll let that sit with you a little bit. Can't do things the way we used to do them. Route optimization is a thing. Tech-focused route optimization has made reliance on apps excessive. And there's a lot of buzz out there about this right now. Not going to say too much more about it than that, other than we have something we're working on to get out there to you folks here very soon. Negotiations, new operational requirements are not reflected necessarily in the new contracts, although there has been maybe some movement on that here recently. But there's guys that are watching this on YouTube, go look for some other videos. We've got several other videos on news about the contract negotiations, and what's happening now here recently is pressure on service. FedEx is demanding higher service standards. You can't sell an overnight service and not get overnight service, right? So having said all that, above all, for 2.0, there's a new premium placed on something called leadership, right? So what's this all about? So we're going to talk with Tracy Taylor of Desert Fox Logistics. I don't know if he wants to say where he's at, but he's in the Midwest, United States. I guess we can say that without revealing where you're at. And we'd like to know, well, we already said Midwest, United States, but Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about what's a little bit about your story, where you been and where you currently at?
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so I've been started out actually as a package handler in 2008. Did that post-college until 2012. I'm in the Plains District. Currently, we have two operations. One has been 2.0 since July, and the other will be going 2.0 in March. And at one point in time, I had about 30 tractors in line haul, and then currently we're dispatching about 35 trucks at both operations today.
So I missed that. How long you been in the biz?
I've been contracting with FedEx Ground since 2012.
That's math I got to do. So that
13 years.
13 years. Oh my gosh, 13 years. But you were a preloader.
Correct. Yep. I was a package handler back in 2008. So this will be, I can't do the math, but like 16 or 17.
It's been a while, huh? How about that?
Been a lot of Christmases. It's definitely changed a lot for the good.
Well, here's the deal. As someone who built an operation, here's what I was trying to get at, but you at one time had an operation that did about $12.5 million a year and has successfully executed a major strategic pivot. So you sold your line haul operation that you had. So how do you define strong leadership specifically in the context of the highly competitive FedEx provider world today?
I define strong leadership as the ability to be able to change the company culture to handle new operational requirements. So it's especially important right now as we transition into Network 2.0. And you also have to have the ability to have a strong will and conviction with you, including your abilities to inflict the change and not be afraid to hold people accountable and to really understand that this new 2.0 network is unlike anything that we've done before.
So if anybody would know about this, it'd be you, right? So you built a relatively huge operation in the FedEx space. You had line haul, P&D, all kinds of stuff. You think it's a culture issue?
It's 100% a culture issue to me. We grew at 10 straight years here at Desert Fox at about 300% growth year over year for that entire decade. And one of the things that I learned, starting out as a young pup, thinking I knew everything in the world, I actually don't know anything. But what I found is that good company culture really can overcome a lot of the hurdles. There's a lot of things that aren't in our control, especially, doing business with FedEx. And screaming and yelling about those things doesn't get packages delivered. It doesn't make your day any better, and it doesn't really solve anything. So having a good company culture where you understand, this is the work and this is what we have to do. This is the task. This is the mission. And this is what's required to complete that mission is very important.
Excellent. So in your experience, what's the biggest difference between the leadership required to run a small operation, let's say 5 to 10 dispatches, versus the leadership required to scale to, as you were there, $12.5 million one?
Leading a group of people will change, I've seen it change. When we first started, I could be really intent. I could be in the operation. I could be hands-on. I could touch everything, feel everything. But as we grew, I've come to understand over the past decade that it takes systems and processes to be in place, and you have to repetitiously do the same things over and over, just like the delivery drivers have to go out there and do the same work over and over, and that's how they get better. As your business grows, you have to understand what it's going to take in the structure for that to go. It's the easiest added verbiage I would think is a vine plant that's growing. It usually has to have some type of structure for the vines to climb the side of the wall.
Okay. So as you said, Network 2.0 requires significant operational change. From a leadership perspective, what is the most profound culture or structural shift service providers must prepare their teams for as they transition?
The biggest structural change that I see that we're all going to have to change is that the BCs are going to have to be willing to change what they're comfortable with. And they're also going to need to function more as a dispatcher, not a driver. And in order for that to happen, it takes a tremendous amount of communication. We might think we're communicating a lot, but in the new 2.0 world, there's lots and lots and lots. I would say probably our communication has at least tripled in our business. And that starts with me as the AO, and then the BCs, they're communicating on a daily basis with the teams to keep people focused on the mission and the task at hand.
Can I ask a question here, Jeff?
Sure.
How about communication from the station when there's a failure on time definite packages? Do they communicate?
100%. The station, I probably talk more to the stations now than I have in the previous decade of working here. There's a lot more visibility on those packages, and they're more willing. I've seen a increased willingness from them to make sure that we get the right information so that we can get this time sensitive stuff delivered on time as per customer expectations.
Thanks.
So for many contractors, the transition to 2.0 requires the owner to lead from the balcony instead of leading from the trenches. What systems or processes must be in place for a leader to confidently make that crucial shift in focus?
I think it's also critical for the driver onboarding when the initial ground rules get set. So when you're first onboarding these people, we have to make sure that we're explaining what the mission is and how we're going to use the tools available to us to complete the job. We use eTruckBiz to help us do a lot of this stuff because of the data connection that eTruck and FedEx have together. It's kind of like almost a little bit of Spotlight, but on steroids. So it helps us drive better results with our folks because we're able to drill down to, yeah, we got a guy who can do 180 stops, 300 packages every day and kill it in 8 hours. But the ride score sucks because they don't want to take the extra 1 or 2 steps to place the package in the right spot. They don't want to take a good quality picture. They don't want to do the small things that make a huge impact on the business.
Okay. So, and this is a real important point here. Network 2.0 requires a new level of accountability. How does strong leadership ensure that new systems and processes are not just implemented, but that accountability is embedded in every level of the organization?
For me, accountability is probably the most paramount thing, and that comes from that good of culture. The strong leadership has to be, and it starts with me, right? So if I say, this is the structure, this is the way we're going to do it, I have to remain consistent in my application of that. If I'm holding my BCs accountable because they said, hey, I need you to go do X, Y, and Z, but they only do X and Y. And I'm like, oh, we got things done and it was okay. And I don't really want to have a hard conversation and say, hey, Mr. BC, why didn't you complete Z when I told you to do so? That trickles all the way down. If I'm unwilling to do that, how can I expect the BCs to be willing to hold the drivers accountable? And then ultimately, how can I expect my drivers to hold themselves accountable to do the things when they don't think anybody is watching?
Okay. So let me ask you this, off script. How do you get your guys to think differently about what they do every day? So you're in the unique position that you have one operation that has transitioned to 2.0 and you've got another one that hasn't yet. So now you've been through this. How are you going to get the guy, now that you've been through this, how can you get the guy in the operation that haven't transitioned yet? How are you going to get them to think in terms of, instead of just getting done today, I'm just trying to get all the packages off my truck so I can go home. How do you get them to quit thinking that way and start thinking about, I've got some 10:30s, I got some noons, I got same day on call pickups I have to do. I'm not going to just be able to just get all this stuff off my truck so I can go home.
So what I did when we went in July, it was a real wake up call for me that we were unprepared for the next round of 2.0 integration for us. And not that the fact that we can't get the job done, but our culture and our other operation wasn't where it needed to be in a teamwork environment. There's a lot of guys, well, this is my route and I'm going to go do this and I'm not helping anybody else, because ultimately our employees didn't come out and tell us that, but they did tell us, we just weren't listening. They wanted us to hold everybody to be accountable because they're tired of helping the same 5 guys all the time who can never get their routes done while they're out there busting their humps. So what I started doing, I recruited another BC because we're going to jump up to about 22 dispatches a day from our 18 that we have right now, which doesn't sound like a huge increase, but when you start to ask somebody to be in charge of, 22 dispatches, a guy's probably going to be in charge of about 30-ish or so people. That's a lot for one. So we went out, We used eTruck to help us find a new BC candidate. And thankfully, I've been blessed that I found somebody who has a lot of the drive and passion and a lot of similarities to myself. They just lack the FedEx part, and that's easy to change. That's easy to educate people on how to do the FedExing. But the intangible things that you can't teach, leadership, organization, problem solving, and under stress, all the things that are required to be good at this job that I can't teach, this guy's already got it. And we've been implementing this since back in July now, talking with our teams and explaining to them, we're going to have to deliver the way the scanner is set up. We have to put the work in to set up FRO, DRO, whatever they call it these days. And basically, it helps from a training perspective. It helps the drivers. I don't need people to think anymore. I just need people to do the work at hand in the time allotted.
Wait a minute. So you hired a BC without any, it wasn't a BC for another company first?
100%. This guy was actually a mastery gunner sergeant on a Bradley up until I think it was September of this year, or actually October 1st is when he came to work for us.
He wasn't your best driver?
He's never delivered a package until he actually started working for us. And it's been great because you don't get sucked into, well, this isn't the way that we did it at Joe Blow's delivery service, and which is great, but this is the way we're doing it here. And there's not bad habits. There's not people missing pickups. There's not people picking up early, because this guy, he sees the rules and he sees the standards and he says, well, I don't understand why you can't scan all your packages. I don't understand why you can't be in the pickup window when it opens before it closes. So it's been very nice and almost a breath of fresh air to hear that without having to sit here and explain. We're not in a rush to go home anymore. The days of the fastest way to get in and get out, those are gone. And some people don't want to hear that, but they're gone. And it's now, this is the box, this is the amount of time, this is the task. We have to get it done. And there are so many complex calculations that are required. We have to put in the information and manipulate the tools at hand to give us the results that we're looking for.
Okay, good. Good. Well, maybe we already just said this. Let's talk about the business contact role. How should a service provider objectively evaluate their current BC to determine if that current BC is equipped to manage the complexity, data, and delegation required by Network 2.0? Well, if you have a current BC, the job's going to change for them, right? Now, the folks that haven't gone into 2.0 yet don't know, but we're trying to tell you it's going to change for folks, right?
Yeah. So for me, obviously I had two BCs coming into both of them, and I feel pretty blessed because I've been able to lead these guys. And that's one of the things that's part of what my why is. But my current BC, or the longer employed BC, our other operation that's going to go in March, he has a lot of the same tools, but he was a driver. He started out as a driver. And one of the things that we found out is, when, not saying that you can't promote within, but promoting from within is difficult, because one of the things that he's had to overcome, and he's done a tremendous job of doing so, is when he got promoted to be the BC, his employees just remembered him as a driver. So they treat him as a driver. They don't see, yeah, he's got a title behind his name, but they don't give him the same respect, or they weren't giving him the same respect. He was getting tied up in a lot of their regular day-to-day nonsense. And what it allowed me to do was kind of help him understand that you've got to be able to separate yourself. You know, when we're at work, it's time to work. We can be friends outside of work, and a lot of people have a hard time separating friendship and professional working relationships. And that's just part of the game. But he's developing the skills, and now bringing Brian in, who, he has no idea what FedEx is, but he's been out for the last month delivering, and he's been punched a couple times in the face that were unpleasant, because he thought this job seemed so basic and simple. And it's actually complex. It's a lot more complex than a lot of people want to give it credit for. But now he's getting settled in, and it's allowed us to take the other guy out and spend some time sharpening his skills on those important BC management side of things, not just, hey, this is the plan, go into DRO at 9 o'clock at night and tell everybody to show up.
Well, what would you tell folks if they if they're already questioning their BC, so let's say they're not 2.0 yet, and they already have a few problems with their BC. They think they're letting the drivers get away with whatever stuff, whatever it is. What would you tell somebody about that situation?
So you're going to have to ask yourself about your BC, probably three things, right? You're going to have to ask yourself, does this person understand what your bigger vision is, or what FedEx bigger vision is of what this operation, the CSA, is supposed to look like? Is that person willing and able to make the changes? That's probably the most critical thing. If you have somebody working for you, yeah, they've been here for a long time and they just don't, they want to fight every inch of the way on every idea that you have, on everything that goes on. That's an exhaustive relationship. That is exhausting to be around and to deal with every day. So you're really going to have to understand, is this person may carry me for a while until I can find another BC who fits the role, or another person who can do what needs to be done, and take their talents and take people's talents and maximize what they're good at and take away the things that they suck at. You also have to ask yourself, is this person, do they understand what a system and process is, and are they willing to adhere to that system and process? So if you have a certain way that you want things done, are they willing to comply with that? And if they're not, that's where you have to really start looking, is this the guy that's going to help carry the load with me to the future? And if they're not, I think you just have to have a real honest conversation with yourself. And not only that, with them, you just have to be straight honest with them and to say, look, I need you to fix, and you have to be direct. You can't be broad. That's the thing I see people all the time. You can't just say there's a problem, because you can't get a solution for that. You have to say, hey, you're not doing this, this, and this, and I need you to be doing these. These are the tools that I will help you to achieve them. And sometimes these guys make mistakes and they do silly things, but that's my job as the leader to help pick them up and to make them be confident and feel secure in my leadership so that they can get the job done. And at the end of the day, if they can't, they got to go away and you got to find somebody else.
Right. Good. So in your view, what are the 3 non-negotiable traits beyond basic competence that a BC must possess to successfully manage a multi-million-dollar operation under 2.0?
So just to kind of recap what I said, they got to have the ability to change, and they got to be willing and able to change. They've got to be able to see your vision and understand what it is that you're looking for, not what FedEx is looking for. It's your business. FedEx has an outline for what we're supposed to do, but the BC needs to understand it's your business and they're working for you. And then that third thing that I would say is that they have to be able to, are they somebody that is willing to trust in you to lead them both professionally and just overall in your organization?
Good. So how can a strong owner use the performance data available in systems like eTruckBiz to coach a promising BC and upgrade their capabilities before the 2.0 implementation forces the issue?
So one of the things that we've implemented since we went at our one location in July, and that I understand after that first 30 days, is you can't assume just because I know that people who work for me automatically know how to find the data to be able to drive the results. Everything that FedEx does now is completely data driven. They don't care about your story. They don't care about this problem, that problem. It's either data or it doesn't exist. If the data doesn't support what you're saying, you're just kind of wasting your time. So we've been really spending a lot of time going back through and showing, and some of the stuff, it frustrates me more so because I've let my team down. And that's one of the things I said at our meeting the other day is we're going to retrain our entire staff. And that's not because they suck or they're not doing, it's because we've let them down. I've let them down in not equipping them to be able to move to the next place where we're going to go. So I wanted them to understand that they have to be retrained, and I have to show them step by step how to do the things that I want done the way that I want them done.
Okay. So if a contractor determines their current BC is not ready for the 2.0 scale, what is the hardest leadership decision they must make, and what should they immediately take to acquire or develop the necessary talent? Or what steps should they take? Sorry.
The hardest decision that you're going to have to make is when Do you understand that the guy that you have being your BC now isn't the guy that's going to carry you into the future? And probably the very first step, I mean, that's the very first step, is to be honest with yourself. Is this guy malleable enough to change, to fold into the product that I need? And if they're not, I think you just have to tell them, hey, I'm going to give you, set a certain time, 30, 60, 90 days to show me that you can make these changes. And in the meantime, get with eTruckBiz. They have tremendous recruiting, and start recruiting somebody who can be a BC. And maybe they don't have, you should probably make a list of what you think that your BC is going to need. And if the guy you have doesn't meet those things, you got to find somebody who does. They've been delivering packages long before I got here, and they'll do it long after I'm here.
So the transition to 2.0 involves significant investment. How does strong leadership ensure that the financial investment in new systems, vehicles, or top-tier BC talent actually delivers the intended return on investment?
So to actually make sure that you're delivering the intended return on investment is that you're going to have to hold everyone from the AO to the newest driver on the team is going to have to hold themselves and everyone around them accountable to the systems and processes in place, either the ones that you've learned from coming to these sessions or building out on your own. If you're not holding true to what you set out to do, then you're not going to get the results. You're going to have to put some money into the business support program that you guys have is a tremendous value because it eliminates having to have a whole bunch of vendors, but it also, to get the investment out of this thing and what you're putting it into, you're going to just have to be able to make the changes and implement them and hold them accountable to that. And that's the most important thing. You have to be willing to change. Everything is changing.
For sure. Absolutely, for sure. So how does being a systems first leader supported by platforms like eTruckBiz allow you to have more difficult data-backed conversations with FedEx management about contract expectations and profitability?
So being that systems first leader, and you have the support with the eTruck and Spotlight and all the things that are going on here, you can go have these data-driven conversations with FedEx, because sometimes they're wrong and they screw up because they're humans just like the rest of us. But that also, the data variable, instead of having all these conversations and getting sidetracked on these other things that don't feel good or whatever, you can just be focused on the data, because otherwise you could just get lost. You get lost in a conversation complaining about things that there's no real solution to, if that makes sense.
Sure does. You've used the eTruckBiz business growth and support system for nearly a decade. How does a veteran contractor shift from using the system for daily operations like clerical tasks to using it for strategic leadership, which we'll call vision and growth?
So probably the best way to explain this is, instead of just focusing on what happened yesterday and why that happened, we have to start thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow and where are we going to be for tomorrow. And then you have to kind of structurally build out a vision. Like, you're going to have, as the AO, you have to be the visionary for what your delivery company is doing. And you have to be able to see further down the road, because that's what everybody who's working under you is requiring of you. If they're telling you how to drive the bus, that's a bad sign, right? Because the inmates can't run the prison asylum. So you, as the operator, have to be in charge, and you have to see, okay, this is where we're going. And if it's a bad path, it's okay. This is the path we're going. So either everybody's going to be on board or they're not. And if they're not on board, you got to ask yourself why.
Kind of what you were talking about, leading from the balcony instead of the trenches.
Correct.
So, last question. If you could give one final definitive piece of leadership advice to every contractor facing a 2.0 transition, what would that be?
The best definitive leadership advice I'd have is that you have to be prepared to make a cultural shift. And what I mean by that is, the best thing to do is to start talking about it now and start preparing for what you're doing and what FedEx is asking us to do and what the vision that FedEx has laid out there, because they've laid the vision out there. of what they want, where they're going, and what they're kind of expecting. And you have to start making that you start today, start figuring out, okay, where do I want to go? If that's getting out of here, great, do that. There's the great thing about you guys is you have tools to help contractors get out of here. If you want to figure out how to make this thing, because really, I truly believe 2027 and beyond, I've said this for the last few years, if you can make it through this transitionary period, there is a great big reward on the other side. And what that great big reward is a really nice revenue generating asset. And if you have the right systems and processes and it's running like a humming machine, it's a really fun thing to have. You can go do some really comfortable, enjoyable things with your life. But if it's not a fun time. And if you don't want to do those things, just be honest with yourself and exit if you don't want to be here. Because the people who want to be here, they're going to find ways to make it work, and they're going to be rewarded with very nice transportation businesses.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you, Mr. Tracy. Ken, do you want to see if anybody has a question or two for Mr. Taylor?
Yeah. Right now, there are no questions, but I would definitely encourage you to ask questions now. Tracy's an experienced service provider who's been around a long time, who's transitioned in one facility, who's spun off a line haul operation. And, once you get rid of that line haul operation, there's no high water hiding the stumps anymore. And he didn't even mention that. So, but as he said, he had to take an honest look at his operation, lead through change. Cultural change is significant, and be brave enough to hire a BC from outside of FedEx. People get hung up on they got to understand everything that FedEx wants. They got to understand everything with DRO. They got to understand leadership a lot more. And then the AOs have to exude leadership as well. Otherwise, you become a rudderless ship. So this is a great time to ask questions. How do you how do you retain your drivers? Do you offer any benefits?
Yeah, 100%. We offer benefits. The easiest thing that we did is last, I think it's been 4 years now. We pay everybody by the hour. And that's been probably the best retainer that we've had. But we also have the usual benefits that employees are seeking or think that they need with health insurance, vision, dental, retirement plans, life insurance, all that kind of stuff.
So they actually look at this as a career?
Yeah, for sure. Can be. It's what you make of it. That's the whole thing about this whole thing. If you have to recruit people who want to be something and make something of themselves. Delivering packages every day can be super rewarding. One of the things I point out to all of our drivers all the time, this is a job where everybody wants what you have. You don't work at the cell phone place where everybody's coming in and angry. You don't work in customer service. You don't work for the government. Everybody is usually excited to see the delivery guy because you have what they want. And if they're not excited to see you, it's because they've had a bad experience with a driver with a bad attitude.
Great point. That's for sure. It does not look like we have any more questions. Bob, you have anything to add? Okay, I actually have one more that came to me. I'm sorry. Isn't it expensive to pay benefits? And how do you know if you can afford if you can pay benefits?
Well, part of that comes from using the eTruckBiz system, but the other part is we just break down that benefit cost into an hourly rate. And that's how we compute what we're paying our guys by the hour, if they're taking the benefit or not. Our benefits package, we contribute, I want to say it's $150 or something like that towards their vision, health and dental for the primary. If they're a family, unfortunately, I can't pay for your whole family to be on my insurance because they're not making any revenue, but definitely for the driver themselves. And you have to remind drivers too that if I'm paying more for your medical insurance, that's just a non-cash benefit. There's some value to that.
So they're generating enough revenue to pay for all that stuff, correct?
Percent. Yep.
Bob, I think I cut you off.
Yeah, Tracy, what about the 401k and the benefits? It just makes it feel like it's not a dead end job. And I think that's a lot of times that's what happens, is they just feel like, well, I can go somewhere else, but here they may not get the benefits and the 401k and someone else investing in them. That's got to definitely help in your retention.
I think that stuff, the benefit stuff's always important, right? Because that's the hook. But at the end of the day, what's going to keep your people is investing in them. You have to continue to invest in your people. And it's something just as simple as, do you have a system and process in place to evaluate your people? Because for a long time, I can only speak from my own experience. For a long time, we did a really poor job of evaluating our people. Like, you came here and you got productive, but we didn't have any system in place to measure anyone's productivity, anyone's talents. Are you getting better? Are you getting worse? Did we set any goals for them? We didn't really have a good system for any of that stuff. And now that we've implemented that, we're able to drive the change. If you can't measure it, you cannot manage it. And if you cannot manage it, it is what it is. You just have to either live with it or move away from it. That's the only way it can be. But if you can measure it, and you can measure everything we do here, pretty detailed, especially now with all the stuff that's coming that FedEx is turning over to us data wise, and then with the systems that are available through eTruck, you can measure everything you want, and by doing so, you can drive good results by managing it.
Excellent. On a daily basis, right?
Yes.
Super. Excellent. No other further questions, it appears. Once again, I want to thank
Hey,
everybody.
Ken.
Oh, there's what's the most important metric that you measure? I don't think there's one single important metric. We use a lot of them. Productivity is what pays the bills. But we're also into trying to drive our ride scores, where productivity is the first and foremost. That's the baseline one, because if you're not being productive, the task at hand expands to meet the time allotted. If you get 50 stops and you can do them in 2 hours, but you give them 8 hours, that should be a pretty clear-cut problem. That's why the daily pay, that's what frustrates me. Everybody has all these back of the napkin ways they pay people, and this is what works. That's what it comes down to. People just pay their employees, well, this is what works for me. Okay, but if that's what works for you and you don't like how your business is working for you, maybe you should change something, because obviously what's working for you isn't working for your pocketbook. So there's probably some reevaluating that needs to be made. But productivity is the first one, because it's the foundation, and then you spread out from there. The ride stuff, the coding, all those things, they all tie it together. So it takes the whole group of metrics. All the metrics that FedEx is showing you, that eTruckBiz shows you, stops per hour, all those things, they're all important to the end goal.
Excellent. Jeff, you're muted.
Tracy wanted to say, he forgot. He wanted to say he uses the easy number. Yeah,
you are correct. That is the easy number. That's the stops per hour and stops per dispatch number that you need. So if you dispatch enough, if you dispatch at your easy number, mathematically, you should be making enough revenue for this to work.
And knowing it every day is critical. So,
correct.
Excellent. Thank you for the questions. Definitely appreciate it. Thank everybody for taking time out of your schedule as you march towards peak, and hopefully you're aggressively recruiting and aggressively training. We will be back here next Tuesday with some of the same information on volume and productivity trends, as well as some other new information. So if we don't talk to you before then, got another question at the last second here. Oh, great content today. Greatly appreciate that. We will be back here next Tuesday, and if we don't talk to you before then, please have a safe and profitable week. Thank you very much.
Thanks.